what's up? John Sonmez here from simpleprogrammer.com, and congratulations on signing up for this mini course on how to ace your programming interview. I'm glad that you signed up, and you should be too, because acing your programming interview is really, really important, not just for getting the job, but for making more money. Let me tell you, I coach a lot of software developers. I've been on the side of being an interviewer and interviewing people. I've made millions of dollars actually as a software developer myself in the software development field. And I can tell you that number one, the best way to make more money as a software developer is to actually ace the interview. Because when you ace the interview, you're going to come in with a lot more negotiating power. Your status in the company is going to be much better. You're not going to get treated like dirt. Okay, so it's really, really important not just to pass the interview and get the job, but to ace it. And that's what I'm going to be telling you how to do in this video series. So today is video one. Okay, there's going to be 3 days and 3 videos. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the technical aspect, programming language and technology related questions, and how to handle that part of the interview. You're definitely going to have this in a programming interview. Tomorrow is really, really important. You don't want to miss it. I have a list of exact questions here that you're likely to be asked, okay, about soft skills type of things. Like, you know, questions like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you know how to answer that question? If you don't know how to answer that question, you better make sure that you watch the video tomorrow. Things like, why should we hire you, right? Most people get these questions wrong. I'm going to give you the question, I'm going to give you the exact answer, I'm going to tell you how to ace this part of the interview, and it's really, really critical. Then finally, day 3, most important day. It's a bit of a mystery day, okay, but I'm going to tell you some of the things that are going to make the biggest difference in programming interviews. I'm going to talk a little bit about data structures and algorithms and those type of hard problems that I would say 90% of developers fail at, and that's what costs them the job. Especially you're going to want to pay attention to day 3 if you want to get a job at a place like Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, Google. So set a calendar reminder. I'll send you some emails and let you know when the new videos are released. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm a software developer. I've been a software developer for 15 years. Okay, I'm the founder of simpleprogrammer.com, one of the biggest software development blogs on the internet and YouTube channels. I'm the author of 2 best-selling books. Actually, the Complete Software Developer Career Guide was a Wall Street Journal bestseller. It's the first time a software development book has ever been on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that so that you can understand that you can trust me. I have coached thousands and thousands of developers on getting jobs, making more money, and we've had huge success. But it's really vital that you listen to what I'm going to tell you in these next 3 videos. So like I said, make some time, mark it on your calendar, and make sure that you watch all 3 of the videos, especially the 3rd video. So let's dig right into this, okay? On any programming interview, you're going to get asked programming language specific questions. So what does that mean? That means that if you're interviewing, let's say for a job on Java, they are going to ask you questions about the Java language. Now, obviously, you might be saying, duh, John, of course they will. All right, but I want to make this clear so you understand, because so many times I have interviewed developers for a C# position, Java position, and I ask them basic questions about the programming language, and they don't know. And let me tell you a little bit of a secret about how most interviewers work, because they're not professional interviewers. A lot of people don't like to interview and they don't know what to do. They're just as nervous trying to interview someone as they are being interviewed, okay? So what they typically do is they will Google top Java interview questions, top C# interview questions, top JavaScript interview questions. Okay, and then they will look at that and they'll look at a couple of articles and they will pick some questions that they like from that list, and they will start asking those questions at the interview. That is sort of how I conducted interviews. I didn't Google it. I was, especially when I did C++, I was such an expert in C++ that I just had like 50 questions, and you're going to encounter that as well. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because if you want to know what kind of questions they're going to ask you, all you have to do is Google top Java interview questions, and bam, you're going to see exactly what they're going to ask you. You look at a few of those articles, okay? Or you can even go and get a book. There's a couple of books out there on Amazon for interview questions, especially specifically to your technology or language. I don't have time, okay, or the bandwidth to cover the exact technical interview questions, the programming language related questions in this video because there's a lot of them, okay? And I don't know what language that you're using. I want you to go and I want you to Google top whatever technology or programming language questions, and I want you to look at all those questions, okay? Look at a couple articles, and for every question, and this is what's critical, I want you to look at the question and see if you can answer it, and if you can answer it, then I want you to articulate why the answer is correct, not just to memorize the answer. A lot of programmers, they can answer the questions, like they can answer a lot of programming related questions, right? For their programming language, for their technology, okay? But what they can't do is articulate why that's the answer. You need to understand, okay? Now, if you don't know the answer, obviously go and look up the answer, but then look up why. Make sure that you understand. For every one of those questions, your goal should be not to just know what the answer is, but to understand why the answer is what it is. And here's the cool thing about this. Once you gain the understanding, okay? Once you have understanding, you won't really have to memorize the answer because understanding comes automatically. It's not rote memorization. If you just try to memorize the answers, not only is it going to be harder, but when people ask you on the interview, you're not going to have a good explanation. And so we'll dovetail this right into the second point that I'm going to make about this, which is this. When you get asked a programming language related question, a very technical question, okay, do not just give the textbook definition of what the answer is, okay? What I want you to do is I want you to explain it in your own words, first of all, okay, if it can be. I mean, some of the things are going to be just like a straight answer, but then I want you to expound upon it a little bit more, right? Explain why the answer is what it is, if you know that, and you may even go into how you've used that technology in the past, why you know the answer to this. If you can demonstrate that you've used this technology, it's going to be a lot better for you. Or if you've used this programming language feature or you know, some in-depth knowledge, right? Every time that you get the chance, what you want to do is your job is to convince the interviewer that you know more than just the answers, that you are a kind of person who's analytical, who's a good problem solver, and is the kind of person that they can count on to figure stuff out. All right, that's what you really want to project. Do not ever lie. Okay, if you don't know the answer to something, and there's going to be some questions you don't know the answers to. Okay, when I used to give interviews, I would have easy, medium, hard, very hard questions, and I would go down and I would keep on going to see how far someone gets before they don't know the answers to any of these questions. And eventually, I'm going to hit a point where they don't know the answer, except for maybe this one guy that like got him all. It was insane. All right, I hired him pretty much instantly. All right, and the reason why I do that is because I want to see what happens when they don't know. I want to see if they're going to lie to me. I want to see if they're going to make up some kind of excuse or reason why. Just accept responsibility and just say, hey, you know what? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not gonna BS you and pretend like I do. I've got an idea of what might be the answer, if you have one, honestly, and say this is what I think. You know, this is why I think this, right? What and why, really important. Remember those two things, okay? And if you just have no idea at all, then the best thing to do is say, you know what, I don't know, but could you tell me what the answer is? Because I'm very curious and I want to continue learning and I want to know things that I don't know so I can improve in the future, okay? And just be sincere and honest about that and listen very carefully to what they say and then ask a couple questions and show that you understand it. So they give you the answer and then you say, oh, okay, so if I were doing this, then I would use it like this. Or oh yeah, okay, I remember actually, now that makes sense because I did use something like this before, or I used this, I just couldn't remember the name, and this is how I did it, right? Now they're gonna be like, they're gonna smile when you do that because they're gonna feel what it's like to work with you, okay? And that you're the kind of person they want to work with. Who wouldn't want to work with someone who acts like that when they don't know an answer and they're very curious and they're immediately showing their understanding of how to apply that knowledge that they just gained. Really good stuff. Like, you want to demonstrate your value as much as possible, and this is your opportunity to do it. Google the questions and answers and look them up. Okay, like I said, I can't just give you them here because there's so many, hundreds of possible questions, but you should know all the top ones, all right? Like, you shouldn't go into the programming interview and not be able to answer the basic questions about the Java programming language or C# or C++ or Ruby or Python or Perl, whatever it is. So next, they're gonna ask you most likely about relational databases, SQL, maybe some object-oriented databases. You should understand basic relational database theory and be able to do some basic SQL queries. You should be able to do a select statement, right? You should be able to maybe group things, okay, be able to insert, update, all that stuff. Real easy to look that up and figure that out and understand it and play around with a SQL server for a little bit, or, you know, a SQL database. It doesn't have to be SQL server, okay? Same thing with object-oriented database. Like, you should know if they're using that, you know, in that technology, right? You should have an idea of that, okay? So I'm not going to go into depth on that. It's same exact thing I just said for the programming language related questions. Next, most likely you're going to get asked, especially if it's more advanced position, about design patterns. And don't freak out. A lot of people freak out and they're like, oh, I have to memorize and know every design pattern. No, I'm sorry. You don't have to do that, okay? I've taught actually classes on design patterns on Pluralsight, and most people do not know all the design patterns. But you need to know one, which is singleton, because everyone loves to ask about singletons. Okay, so understand what a singleton is and how to create one in whatever programming language you're programming in. And then understand like a few other ones, because a lot of times they're going to ask you, name me some design patterns and when you've used them. So have this thought about it ahead of time. Maybe you have a facade, okay, or a proxy, or, you know, there's a lot of different ones. A flywheel, that's more obscure, but try to know at least some of the common ones, okay, and how you would use them. Bridge pattern, right? Things like that. Next, this one's important, is they're gonna likely ask you questions related to the type of programming language or the programming type of environment. So typically, right, it's going to be object-oriented stuff, right? So for, like, you know, C#, C++, Java, right, any kind of object-oriented language, they're going to ask you some very basic questions that you should know the answers to, because everyone likes to ask these questions, okay? And like I said, not only should you know the answers, but you should be able to explain and show that you understand them and that you've used them, right? So what is object-oriented programming? You should be able to answer that question, okay? What is polymorphism? And not only should you answer this question, but this is a great one to demonstrate that you know what you're talking about. Because if you can explain polymorphism really well, it's going to show that you know you've done some in-depth studying and that you really actually know what you're doing. Okay, especially if you're programming in an object-oriented language. What is an interface? What is a class? What is inheritance? What is multiple inheritance? Okay, all of these type of questions. What's data abstraction? If you study these things and you understand them, you're not going to have a problem. Again, you can Google this stuff and you can look up these questions and you can just, you know, make sure that you understand the ones that I'm giving you for sure, and then any of the ones that you look up. Okay, so I know some of you are like, okay, wait a minute, John, you haven't really told me what the real questions are or what the answers are. And that's fine, I understand. But like I said, tomorrow I'm going to get into real specific questions and I'm going to give you the specific answers, because we're going to be talking about more of the soft type of questions that they ask. All of these questions that we talked about in this video, you can look up and you can find the answer, right? And it's a lot of information. It's going to take some time, but I'd rather give you the guidance on how to do that than try to tackle, I mean, maybe I can pick out the top 5 Java or C# questions, but this is not going to help you, because what if they don't pick those top 5, okay? So make sure that you stay tuned tomorrow. Okay, because tomorrow is going to be a critical day. Like I said, I've got this whole list of questions. Set a calendar reminder, or I'll send you an email as well, and I will see you tomorrow.